Okay, we're here with Will, and we're just sharing ideas. Will, you are, would you like to introduce yourself?
My name's Will. That's me.
Okay. And you do sound engineering, right?
I like to study as many different fields of science as I can.
Okay. All right, come closer to the camera. I mean, just for sound. This way. You can come this way. Okay. So what were we talking about?
So I realized I have all these different pieces of science that I've learned throughout the years, and they're all beautiful pieces each. To me, it's like a big box of Legos, but they're not really connecting in a meaningful way. So I wanted to reorganize all my thoughts from the ground up. I wanted to rebuild. I wanted to take all the Legos and build it into something. I wanted to take all the different various disciplines of science and connect them into one big all science. So that's what's been on my mind since the last time I spoke to you about a month ago.
Okay, and the last time we spoke for, how long would you say we talked last time?
Jeez, was it 8 hours?
8 hours straight?
Yeah.
And it seemed like 5 minutes, I guess.
It went by quick.
Okay. So can we introduce you as a sound on here?
Yeah.
Okay, sound engineer. So Will has but Will, you were saying you see yourself as interested in all subjects.
Yeah. I mean, because of so I remember as a kid, I wasn't really much into other topics except science, specifically physics. And there was this book that I had. I think it was called The Way Things Work. I think it was written by Popular Science or Popular Mechanics. And I was so enthralled by the book. It was just so compelling and fascinating how the way the world worked. I've always been a physics lover, but my parents always tried to get me to do something else. So in a way, I still have that childhood-like curiosity and appreciation to understand how this earth we live in operates.
Got it. That's really interesting. How would you describe your relationship with your work, sound engineering?
It's really interesting because I was listening to some topics on sociology, psychology, anthropology. One of the speakers, he was talking about how humans, we've evolved to be very visual creatures. Something like the point, so we have peripheral vision and then we have our focused vision. So peripheral vision, I mean, that covers like an IMAX screen. But the point of focus is only a centimeter wide. Yet it takes most of our brain power just to digest what that 1 centimeter is looking at. It always intrigued me, the invisible world as well, though. I know we're very visual, but what fascinated me was the invisible world, and sound really appealed to me. The way sound waves work, the way sound moves things, the way sound shapes things, such as water or sand on a vibrating plate. So I just took to the invisible, just because everyone around me was always focusing on the visible.
I see. Okay, so what were we talking about? That's very interesting, Will. Very interesting. What were we talking about before we started streaming? And I said, Will, we got to start streaming. Because we've been talking for a while already.
Yeah, we've been talking for like, what, 3-4 hours now.
Yeah. And I think we've been trying to stream that whole time too.
You're
Oh, we were
right.
trying to find a place quiet enough to stream. So we called this right now working title Idea Flow, but what were the other titles you had made the ideas of? What were some of the other titles?
Possibility Launchpad,
Possibility Launchpad, that's interesting. What else?
Purpose Trajectory.
Purpose Trajectory. For this video, we were thinking about calling it that. Will was. Or both of us were, but you came up with the words.
Yeah, we were playing around with the words of ideas, birthing ideas, flowing. Yeah?
Yes. Yes. So, something that we talked about last time we spoke that was really interesting to me that I've been thinking about is you were telling me that there's... Now, I don't know if I have this right. I don't know if you were saying that there's sound waves that are larger than the planet. Was it sound waves? Or
Yes.
You were saying that to me.
That's right. So every sound wave can be measured with a ruler, or assuming you have a ruler big or small enough. But there's a physical distance to every sound wave that exists. And some sound waves are so large, they actually are larger than the diameter, the size of our planet.
Wow. So there's sound waves that are larger than the size of our planet. Now, what I'm visualizing when I hear you say that is I'm visualizing that there's a wave. So when you say a wave, are we talking like a sound wave that goes up and down in a smooth way, like a sideways S?
Yes. So traditionally, as taught in textbooks, there's this S shape going sideways, and if you measure from trough to trough or crest to crest, that's your sound wave. Right?
And the trough and the crest is, there's a line going down. There's a line. And which part is trough and which part is crest? Does crest go down?
I believe trough is the bottom. Hold on, I just want to make sure.
Okay. Because it's not something you think about every day, right? This is what we talk about when we talk about the words we use to describe the things we know, right?
Yes, that's right. Trough, it should be the valley, so the most bottom part of that sound wave, and the crest is the peak, the mountaintop.
Okay. And so you were saying?
So just for reference, like if I interject a layer of music theory on top of this, so most instruments in an orchestra tune to a 440 hertz.
Okay.
So that's 440 wavelengths passing a point per second. So 440 cycles.
Okay.
Create an A, which is kind of the middle of a piano.
Okay.
And so the length of that, in centimeters, that's 78 centimeters.
Okay.
The lower the note, the bigger the length of the wave. And so I was talking to you last time. For example, I knew someone who inherited a very nice grand piano, a Steinway.
Mm-hmm.
And he complained that there wasn't enough bass. And I told him that's because the room is too small. You need to, let's open the windows. I want you to go outside. Go about 20, 30 feet away. And then I played the same bass notes. And he said he could finally hear the bass.
Wow.
So some of these sound waves need room to mature.
Okay.
I also talked to you about acoustic shadows. So anytime you have a light source and you have something bigger than the light source get in the way, the light is blocked. And that's kind of the phenomenon of eclipses. The same is true with sound. So let's say there's a sound wave that's 1 inch in wavelength. If I were to put something in front of that sound source that's projecting that 1 inch sound wave, let's say it's a book that's a few inches wide. There's an acoustic shadow, so that frequency won't go through, or I should say it won't go around, because the object is larger than the sound wave. Um, if you've ever been in traffic and you have your windows rolled up and you don't really hear the outside world, but somebody drives up to you with their massive subwoofers blasting their hip hop music, you hear the bass, you feel the bass.
Yeah.
The reason is the bass waves are larger in sound in length uh, than than your windows, than the car itself. So there is no shadow effect there. So the sound waves will actually pass through, or you could say pass around, anything that's smaller than the wave itself.
Is that to say that the shorter frequencies are shorter than the thickness of the glass? Is that what that means? That's why the shorter ones are blocked?
Essentially so. Yeah.
I see. So how does this relate in your thoughts, and given our conversations on energy and sound, how does this relate to energy? How does sound relate to energy to you? How do you see it?
I think what summarized it best is the quote you mentioned last time, I believe by Thomas Bearden, about vibration. Uh, if you remember what you said.
Remind me.
Uh,
Please.
Something about everything in the universe moves according to vibration. I don't remember exactly what you had said.
Oh, okay. Was it Thomas Bearden or Nikola Tesla? Because Tesla said that if you want to understand how the universe works, think about frequency, vibration. I think he said frequency, vibration, and energy. I think. It's been a while since I read it.
Okay.
But I'm sure Thomas Bearden said that as well. So I could have been quoting Tom Bearden. I don't remember at the moment. I mean, people that know a lot about the universe understand that we're talking about frequency, vibration, and energy. Or energy is frequency and vibration.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking earlier about, too, that, well, we talk about many things. It's like we're building on, everything we're saying is the same thing, really. Everything's energy, everything's in motion. And I think in my thoughts, I'm thinking about how to access that. And how has it been accessed before? And how can it be accessed? Whether it be in new ways or by combining past ways into new combinations of ways to access it, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts about that?
I was I started talking about the Legos and just rebuilding the way I look at the world and science.
Yes.
So I started looking back at ancient science, ancient mathematics. And I feel ashamed of myself because I naturally found myself, and I guess others share this too, people who lived in former ages, former centuries, former millennium, uh, we look at them as as not as smart as we are. And true, maybe they don't know what we know, but uh, I learned that their capacity for intelligence was just as high back then as it is now.
Right.
So they knew things we didn't know. Um, I love the area of mathematics and specifically numerology. Uh, so I believe the radius of the sun is 43,200 miles.
And the radius is
Half of the
the diameter.
That's right.
Which is half of the distance of the width of the sun.
That's right.
If we say it that way.
That's right.
The width. So the width is the diameter. The radius is from the center of that diameter.
Yes.
To the outer edge.
That's right.
Okay.
So going off of 43,200, that's how many seconds are in half of a day. So there's 43,200 seconds, let's say from 12 noon to midnight.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Did I say that right? Half of a day. So in 12 hours, 43,200 seconds. What the Egyptians did, they built a pyramid that is the exact scale of the size of the Earth in dimensions from north to south pole, and the width of the equator. That's a perfect scale. Scaled down 43,000. It's one divided by 43,200.
Okay.
So somehow they knew that the Earth was round, and somehow they were able to figure out the dimensions of the Earth. In Roman times, there was a statue. I wish I could remember the name of the statue. And there's this figure holding in his hand the Earth, and the Earth in his hand is round.
Wow.
Um,
And when is this from?
from Rome.
And that's, so how many years are we talking about, roughly? That
Uh,
statue.
this is approximately, I guess, around 2 millennia ago.
Which would be approximately how many years?
I don't know. I don't remember exactly when this statue was made, but I believe Rome fell around, what, 300, 500 AD or so.
So we're talking about at least just over 2,000 years
Right,
that this knowledge was there. Yeah.
right.
Well, they say the universe is 14 billion years old, approximately.
Yeah.
So a couple thousand years is very little in that larger number.
That's right.
And it's hard not to imagine. Maybe it's impossible to not imagine how much other intelligent life is out there.
Yeah.
Because the proof that there's intelligent life is out there is that we are out there.
That's right.
We're
That's
a part of the out there.
Yeah. I love what you mentioned earlier today about the other life forms in the universe. Whatever technology they have access to, it's not just applicable to them. It's a universal technology that we could access to.
Yeah, I think the way I was describing it is that, and help me remember, please, but I was thinking about, I don't remember how I started that idea to you. I don't know how I began explaining that, but I was thinking it was something like imagining, okay, so if we just go back to the 14 billion year estimation, right? If we go to the 14 billion year universe age, if there's a people, if we say, or intelligent life forms that are using advanced technology that is maybe, how far ahead did I say? Did I say a few 100,000 years, or
Yeah.
a few 100,000 years ahead of us? They live in the same galaxy as us, the same universe as us. Those technologies would work here as well. And I like the way you said it, that we have access to those as well. Meaning that we can make anything that any advanced civilization can make. We can do that. With the tools that we make, with the thoughts and the collaboration, the working together, for medicine, for travel. It's exciting to think that we live in the same space as they do, really. I mean, everything's moving. We're moving at a very fast speed through space. The galaxy is turning, but the galaxy itself is moving through space at a very fast speed. So, in a way, we're not in the same space ever.
Yeah.
But we're in the same universe, I guess. At least that's the way we relate to those words and ideas right now.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. So you like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it makes sense, right?
Yeah. in a lateral way, yes. There's technologies that we don't know about yet that perhaps other distant life forms are already utilizing. But what bothers me is how we as humans, uh, we kind of lose our own technology through the years. So, for example, the Dark Ages, that was a horrible time to be on the planet. A lot of art, a lot of science was kind of lost in that period. Okay, one aspect is life expectancy. In Rome, the life expectancy was in the 70s. Uh, Thanks to the Dark Ages, the life expectancy went down to the 30s. And it wasn't until the 1900s that we were able to get the life expectancy back up to the 70s.
Wow. And how did you learn about this?
Just reading a lot of archaeology, paleontology, a lot of history. I just wanted to dot all my I's, cross my T's, make sure I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, yeah.
I was listening to one MIT engineer. I'm trying to remember his name, but he was talking about in the Smithsonian Museum. They have a pottery wheel, and you know the wheel is laying down horizontally, and you know there's relics of Native Americans making pottery using this pottery wheel. But what the engineer was saying, he's like, how come no one ever thought that whole time of taking that wheel and putting it vertically? Like the future technology was possible. It was right in front of them. They just didn't think about it in a different angle.
Yeah.
So I'm always concerned that I'm missing something that's right in front of my eyes.
Well, the way I think about that is, I mean, I understand the idea of what you're saying. I'm just going to word it my own way.
Sure.
I would think of it less as a concern that I'm missing something. And I know that I'm missing most of what's before me.
Mm-hmm.
And the question I live with is, how can I learn to access the sight of what is before me?
Yeah.
Which we can call languages, which is just language as a tool to access my environment visually and interactively, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think you're saying the same thing, right? That is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In a way. Is that
Absolutely.
what you're saying?
That's
Yeah.
right, that's right.
So when you say concern, you're just saying I'm open to what I'm not seeing.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
And I'm saying, how do I learn to see what's right in front of me? It's right there.
That's what I've been trying to figure out this past month. How do I get my eyes to, maybe it's not an eyesight thing, maybe it's invisible. You know, how do I just recognize more of the beautiful science that's already been here the whole time?
You know, I've heard this talked about, and I'm going to say this now because I've heard this talked about so many different times, and there's different responses to me saying this, but there's supposed to be a way to see other life around us that literally is all around us, that we can't see with our eyes like they are. And it's an experiment I want to do sometime. If you want to do this, we can try it.
Sure. Love to.
I'm trying to remember what we need. Now, I've told people that follow, at the time I didn't realize they followed the show. There's a show called something where they try to find ghosts and stuff.
Okay.
There's a show like that,
Yeah,
I guess.
I know what you're talking about.
And so the people I was talking to were fans of that show. So when I shared with them, I didn't know it at the time, I was just talking to them. And when I shared with them, you know, how to see other life around us, which are supposed to, like, from what I understand, they like to be near trees, and they like to, and I guess they look much different than us, okay? They don't harm us, though. They're just there. All they could say is, oh, that's already being done on the ghost program, you know? Well, I peeked at the program. It doesn't look like they're showing any creatures in a clear, distinct way. I'm saying creatures, but any other life forms walking around. I guess they walk. I don't know. They move around, and they're. I haven't seen that, but the way that I understand how to see these beings is, and it might take a few different experiments, but if I recall the concept, it's using, how do I say this? It's night vision. It's using, is infrared night vision, or is that the light that lights up the night vision? Do you know?
I don't know, but I'm assuming that's how it works.
Infrared. I'm trying to remember I have this written down, and I don't know where those notes are at the moment, but it's combining like night vision with, and there's probably so many different kinds of night vision, but part of me is like, okay, do I want to see this? Like, if you could see that and the creatures looked maybe a little frightening to you, but they don't hurt you, would you want to see it?
Probably not.
Because then you would always know for sure that they were always there, and you just didn't see them. So would you choose to not see them?
See, that's an interesting point, because now, that's if the fact is that they are there,
Yeah.
and I choose to ignore acknowledging them, then I'm shutting out science, so to speak.
Because science is not to prove anything, but it's to study what's there, right?
Right.
It's to build a theory of understanding, language, bridges, language that allows the building of bridges of understanding to be shared with others, collaborate. So right now I'm just going to say it's night vision, and I think an infrared lamp. Now, what kind of night vision though? Maybe it doesn't matter, but whatever kind there is, just try all the different ones, right, until you see them. But it's supposed to be very clear. It's not like taking readings or anything like that. You just see them moving around, Now, this is, enough people have said the same thing that I am curious about it. Mm-hmm. Because when different people that don't even know each other say the same thing, I just have to, it makes me wonder, well, okay, well, that could be an experiment to see, to see what we can see.
Yeah.
But that came from the idea of talking about, seeing what's all around us, but not being able to see.
Right.
And that goes, so again, I think it's night vision combined with infrared, and using it at night. I guess you'd have to use it not in the daytime, right? Because you can't use night vision at daytime. I think it's bad it doesn't even work. You wouldn't want to do that. But so night vision at night, and looking around trees. That's where you'll see them, around trees. Isn't that neat that they're around trees? If this is really a thing, if it's really real, they like trees. Wow. So that's neat. Well, we saw something neat tonight. We saw lights connected to a tree.
That's
We
right.
can share that. And you decoded an SOS from that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is there was a palm tree. It was a tall palm tree, probably like 100 yards tall or 50 yards tall.
It was tall as the 2-story buildings right next to it. Yeah.
So it was very tall, and when you say 2-story building, it was not a 2-story apartment building. It was a 2-story like. It
was a movie theater.
Yeah, it was. These are tall ceilings.
Yeah. These are industrial buildings.
This is industrial 2-story building, so that's probably equivalent to like a 6-story apartment building, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is really tall. So there's a palm tree, very tall, has Christmas lights. It looked like Christmas lights, or they wrap the street. They wrap those nice lights around trees, those nice like LED lights around trees, and they go from the bottom all the way up to the top. Well, this one had the lights wrapped. Let's say starting at like 1/3 or 1/4 to 1/3 of the way up the tree. That's where it started, and it wrapped upward all the way to the top. And there was one light that's flashing, one LED light that's flashing, and all the others were not flashing at all. They were off.
And there were like hundreds of them just not working.
Yeah, hundreds of them not working. That's right, hundreds of lights not working at all, and one LED And I showed, now this is something I've been aware of for a while. I've known about this light flashing, and I wondered what's powering it, because the cord that this light plugs into the ground, that cord is cut. You can see there's no, it's not plugged in. And there's this one LED flashing, and there was so Will noticed there's a pattern to it, and he says, Joseph, is that SOS? He said, let me look it up. So he looks up on Google. ...
So three shorts with the three longs. Three shorts is the SOS Morse code.
Morse code, SOS. And you want to show that on the, should we show that on the?
Oh yeah, let's see if it'll.
Yeah, it'll show. That'll show. Yeah, show it back because I'm zoomed.
Okay.
Like right over here. Let's see. Where are we? Oh, it's over here. It's this way. So that's the. Let's see if we can see that.
Oh, here it is.
Oh, there it is. So SOS is ... and then ...
So it's three. So it's three shorts and three longs.
Yeah, three shorts, and three shorts,
three
longs, three shorts, and that's SOS, right? So, okay, that's good. So that's what the LED light was doing on the tree. We could even make a video of that. That might be a neat video to do. And I don't know. I mean, is the tree asking for help?
I wonder, or if somebody's signaling through that, because it was so weird. You showed me the end of the cord. It's completely disconnected and cut. It's not connected to any power source.
Yeah.
When you pointed it out, that's what I immediately just started doing. I started counting the pattern. There was three short, three long. And
you were amazed by it.
Yeah.
Because you could see the cut cord.
Yeah.
And that none of the other lights were on, and that light was just one in a row of hundreds of lights, and it was like in the middle.
That's right. Just a random one in the middle. So it had part of the SOS. So it had three short, three long, and it would just repeat that over and over.
So three short, three long, three short, three long, like that? Is that what it's doing?
Right. So it's SO, SO, SO.
Oh,
but that's
okay.
but I, the first time I thought it was SOS.
Okay. So that's an update for me.
So it was just odd how you said you thought it could be ambient energy from the air, the tree, the ground.
Well, I didn't know if that cord, the cord just being so long around the tree and being up in the sky like that, going way up into the sky, if that could have been giving the bulb enough energy to light. But then why would it only light the one? And is it because that one bulb, because of the way it was manufactured, had a variance in it enough that it actually maybe takes less power than the others? And then is the flickering of the light turning on and off like that because there's just enough energy in the atmosphere hitting the wires, if I say it that way, that it can pulse that bulb the way that it does. I mean, I don't know. It's very consistent, that it does that. It's very consistent pulsing. You saw it.
Yeah.
It was a very regular interval. But that makes me think of, let me see if I can get my train of thought back. That was making me think of something else. It'll come back. I lost the thought. That was making me think of something, though, with the experiments.
Because I know you mentioned when we were at the base of the tree how you wanted to bring meters and do measurements.
Oh yeah, to measure if there was
a ladder.
Like a voltage. Yeah, I wanted to climb up there. Oh yeah, okay. Thank you. So that reminds me of an experiment I want to do. Which, by the way, if you're interested in this sometime, you're welcome to join me on this.
Sure. If you need a guinea pig, I'll be whatever.
Well, there's stories about people putting metal I guess we could say stakes, like just a metal bar. Copper would probably be ideal, but copper, metal, some kind of metal, just starting out with probably metal, long nails maybe or something. And pounding the nail, the long nail, let's say we have a 2-foot nail or
Okay.
like something long, at least 2 feet, pounding it into the ground, to the dirt, right?
Yeah.
So maybe Griffith Park or one of the mountains around here, right?
Okay.
Pounding it into the dirt. I have at least several hundred feet of wire that I found, literally just found, just like sitting in the, off the side of the road,
Nice.
like just sitting there.
That's random.
Yeah, it was really weird. I'm just like, okay. There was no other vehicles around. It looked like it just, fell out of maybe it fell out of something, fell off of something or fell out. But it was just sitting there. And so I have several hundred feet of copper wire. I'm just guessing it's at least several hundred feet. If I connect that copper wire to that nail, let's say at the bottom of a hill, right?
Okay.
Or halfway up a hill or bottom of a hill, somewhere where there's still room to go up, okay? Pound it into the ground and then go up the hill, climb the hill, a change in elevation. This is kind of going back to our little bulb blinking, right? Because it goes up.
Yeah.
There's stories that long ago people have done these experiments, and it's documented, about when you take this wire and you go up a hill and then you pound another piece of metal into the ground, and salt water helps it connect to earth. So you want there to be some salt water where you put the nail in, so it helps it connect to earth. Not connecting the wire at both nails, not doing that, but taking a reading between the wire and the other nail at the top of the hill. So it could be at the top of the hill or the bottom of the hill, and I don't know what the difference would be, but this would be the test we could try, And there's supposed to be some people that have done this, not here, like at Griffith Park, but they've done this at different parts of the world. I don't know if anybody's done it at Griffith Park. I'm guessing they probably have, but I want to try it and just see if we get some kind of reading for energy, like an energy reading by just changing elevation. It seems like a simple enough test to do. I'm thinking just bring a drill that can help me roll that wire back up after unwinding it. Because can you imagine having hundreds of feet of that thick wire and then trying to wind it by hand?
Yeah. Sounds like you need a giant-sized fishing pole.
Yeah. Or use the drill to spin
Right.
to spin the wire holder.
Yeah.
And then just kind of guide it in with hold the wire with a rag or something or a glove, and just guide it in to roll it back onto the the wire holder.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting.
So what do you think? What do you think about that?
So you're saying a long stake at the bottom and at a higher elevation,
Yeah, and then connecting the wire at one of those.
but not to both.
Not to both, because that would be shorting it out. That's
Okay.
the idea.
Okay. And then you would take a reading off of both of the stakes.
No, you would take a reading off both the stakes, but not at the point of both the stakes, right? But at the point of one of the end of the wire and the other stake at the top. Does that make sense? So the
okay.
wire's connected to one stake, and then you take a reading from the end of that wire to your other stake in the ground. Because the idea is, if you touch that to the other, if you connected the wire to both ends, the idea is that it would just, one person described it as just totally vaporizing the wire and potentially getting electrocuted.
Interesting.
Because there's a lot of energy and difference. See, voltage is, or how do I say this? Voltage is described as volume. It's described as, Don Smith. So Don Smith describes I still have a lot to learn about Don Smith because I have a book of his, and there's a lot in there, and I feel like you might absorb it quicker than me because of your background in sound engineering.
Okay.
But I don't know. We probably see different things, just like we do, right?
Right.
And we probably complement one another's ideas of what we're like. That's what we tend to do when we talk about things.
Yeah.
What was I saying? Don Smith talks about what he says is
Yeah, voltage. Yeah.
voltage. One of the things that I understand him to be explaining is that voltage is right. That's what we take readings of. Like our houses have 110 or 120 volts coming out of the plug, up to I think 20 amps. I think if you go over 20 amps, it can make the breaker trip because it's too much for it, right? So you'd have to go outside and turn the breaker back on again, right? If you pull too much power. But Don Smith, the way he describes all usable energy is that we've moved the energy with our devices, right? We've moved it. Kind of like if we moved water, like if you put a dam up and you're holding the water there, right? If you, I'm trying to think of how he describes it. It's important to talk about these things to help clarify them, right?
Yeah.
And it's also important to make things.
Yeah.
So not to just be good at talking about things, but also to be able to make things too, which I'm working on. I think we both work on that.
Yeah.
In our own ways, and we're also talking about collaborating on things too. But I think the way he describes the energy right now, I'm thinking about this, is you use, like when you move magnets and coils near each other, that, let's say that pushes the energy, the ambient energy back.
Okay.
Kind of like a dam, right? Holding the water back, right? So you push the energy back, and then when there's a pulse, when you're pulsing, if we call it resonance, right? When there's a pulsing, let's say 20,000 cycles per second, right? 20,000 hertz, that'd be 20,000 hertz, right?
Yeah.
Is that right? 20,000?
Yeah, that's one way of measuring it, yeah.
Okay.
Hertz can be used for sound waves or non-sound waves, as long as they're waves, and as long as they're cycles.
So they can be sound waves or not sound waves.
Right. So electromagnetic waves, radio waves. But Hertz is a universal way to measure all that.
That's really great.
Which is kind of confusing, because I thought sound...
Okay.
So yeah. In other words, Hertz is can be cross-platform.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. That actually helps me understand it better. So when you have these cycles, these high frequency cycles, let's say it's pulsing through a wire, right? A coil. If it's pushing away this ambient energy, but in the cycling, it's the ambient energy is coming. I think what it's doing is, the way I visualize it right now, and I'm not saying I'm right. I'm still learning how this works and still learning how to visualize this. But it seems like he's saying the pulsing is interacting with the environmental energy, and that energy, maybe that's where our voltage is coming from. That's what converts the ambient, and maybe it's like cohering the ambient energy.
Oh.
It's cohering it. It's translating it into voltage, into usable energy, usable to do work, run a light bulb, power a motor. He talks about VAR, volts, amps, reactive. VAR, because people say, well, how many amps can I get? I see all these volts. You're talking, people were telling Don, in his lectures that he was giving, you're always talking about, basically, this is a paraphrasing, but they're like, okay, how many amps do we get? How much? Because people don't want to just know the volts, they want to know the amps too. And he's saying volts, amps, reactive. What it means is you have just as many amps available as you have volts. And it just depends on what you're running. That's what determines your amps. It's like, how many amps do you need? You know what I mean? Yeah. Isn't that neat?
Wow.
I mean, it just makes it, I don't know how to say this, but it makes sense that nature would work that way.
Yeah.
See, the way I'm looking at the way that we relate to what we know is I'm seeing it as, I notice that we compartmentalize things.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Too much. Yeah.
so much, right?
Yeah.
A lot. We compartmentalize things, and then, but how do the things work together is what I'm trying to see.
That's right.
How do these compartmentalized kind of packets of information, these compartmentalized, you know, languages, how do they translate to make a coherent whole? In a way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So that's the way that I'm, maybe I could say, teaching myself to see. Meanwhile, looking for someone to hire that knows more about transistors, MOSFETs, diodes, full wave bridge rectifiers than I do.
Yeah.
Which I feel like most people qualify for that. If I could just find someone that wants to work on these projects and of course I'll pay them, that wants to make things.
Yeah.
So I'll keep looking for that, and I have a few people that I've reached out to, and they're just very busy right now, but if I keep looking, I'll find someone. Because I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that know electronics and electrical engineering that are saying, wow, I sure would like to make something. I know all this stuff, and what should I make? What can I make today? And they're ready to go, you know?
Yeah.
So they have the language of experience and the language of how to make things, but they just need maybe the schematic, which doesn't have to be a drawing of it, but it can be someone helping them understand what they need. And then together in collaboration, something can be made. So someone gave us a thumbs up. Thank you for the thumbs up.
Awesome.
We're here to learn.
That's such an interesting way of what you just said, the language of experience. It's that's pretty deep right there already.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And if you get my notes, because I've shared them with you,
okay,
I have thousands of notes that I write down. They come from the unconscious, they come from my thoughts, they come from all the books that I study on how the universe works, how atoms work, how electricity works. Always trying to find a new way to see a relationship between all the different ways of seeing things and that things have been seen. So I hope that you can access those notes soon, because there's some neat stuff in there.
Okay.
And it should expand, if anything, it should expand. Earlier you were talking about how, and I don't know the exact way you said it, but I think you said there's this narrow window of sight that we have, and it takes, did you say it takes like a lot of our brain power to interpret that very narrow view of sight?
That's right.
And does that mean to say that at any moment we focus on one little thing? I don't think you were saying the whole periphery of what we see, because we see a pretty wide view.
That's right.
But what we're choosing to see at that moment, and then in the way that we process that information, takes a lot of brain power. Yeah, so I think it could, I'll be adding some material to your perception that we can discuss, I hope.
Awesome.
When you visit those notes, because they've been shared with you already, but you have to, your phone needs...
I have to update the phone to be able to access the notes.
Okay, and you can't update the phone yet?
And I can't update the phone because I got to update the computer. Right.
Oh, because you need your computer and phone to be in sync with each other.
Right, and they won't sync yet right now.
They won't sync right now?
My phone is too new for my computer.
Okay, so since they can't sync anyways, maybe you can update your phone. Just update it anyway, if it'll take it. If your phone will take the newest one.
Oh no, it won't. I can't update the phone without updating the computer.
Oh, you mean you can't update your phone without the computer?
Right.
You can't just do it over the internet? Like my phone just does it through the network.
Yeah, I've already tried it. Yeah.
Oh, it's just not doing it?
And I have a bunch of IT friends. So
Which phone do you have?
I have an iPhone 6,
Okay.
but I have a prehistoric computer I'm working on.
Okay, all right. Well, I hope you can access those notes soon, but that's your choice, too.
Absolutely. I gotta give credit to. I remember now, Dr. Jordan Peterson. That's where I learned about the brain, the eyesight where we focus is about a centimeter, but it takes massive brain power just to digest that.
I'm really glad that you said his name because it allows me and others to now study him
Right.
and kind of expand on what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that could be part of further conversation in the future, if it comes up. Okay, so
Yeah, he's a former professor of psychology from Harvard, and now he just travels all around the world. Um, Even though his field is psychology, he's very well versed in many areas. And unlike a traditional psychologist that shrinks your mind, every time I listen to Dr. Peterson, my mind just expands exponentially.
okay.
And anytime I even get the inkling of thinking that I have any kind of intelligence, I just listen to one lecture of this guy and I'm reminded, oh yeah, maybe I'm not as smart as I thought I was.
And his name is
Jordan Peterson.
Dr. Jordan Peterson?
Yeah. One of the great intellectuals of our time.
And if you look up in relation to his name and you add sight or perception, that'll pull him up right away? Or how would you word it?
Oh, there's so many videos of him now. He was in one of his lectures.
So he's the only Jordan Peterson. There's not going to be
That's
some
right.
other. Okay.
He pops up easily. There is one topic I want to bring up that was mentioned by him. So he studied a lot of Russian psychologists and their findings. What these Russian psychologists discovered, and this is like now the groundbreaking cutting edge of psychology for this century, there's a mechanism of the mind to recognize anomalies.
There's a what of the mind?
There's a mechanism of the mind, the way we think.
That looks it recognizes.
It identifies an anomaly and digests it and understands it.
And how would you describe an anomaly? How would you describe it?
So apparently, if I recall correctly, it's we're doing our normal daily task, maybe back in the day, hunting, gathering, and then we hear something behind us, some transient sound.
An anomaly.
And we turn around.
Is that an anomaly?
Right.
Okay.
And it may be an animal, it may be something, but it's out of the norm.
Yeah.
That we're not used to. And
Wow.
And so there's this reflex, I think that's what he said, it's a reflex of the mind to understand what the anomaly is.
Okay.
And then he went on further, but my takeaway from that was a lot of the great scientific discoveries would not have been noticed without this reflex in play.
That's interesting. I mean, I think it's interesting too. I mean, I don't know if interesting is the right word to use, but it's also interesting when we have incredible scientific discoveries that are ignored, ridiculed, mocked, and put down because they don't fit the framework of the, did you call it paradigm?
Paradigm, yeah.
Paradigm. And tell me about the paradigm. What is that?
Paradigm is old science. It's facts established off of old truths.
And what do you think would allow, I guess I'll say a civilization, right? That's the whole planet, right?
Yeah.
What do you think would allow a civilization to embrace, not only wholeheartedly, but just entirely, the idea that there can be another way to relate to the not yet understood or not yet known?
In other words, to embrace a new paradigm?
Yeah, a paradigm that's maybe more inclusive of invention and new ways of thinking and creating and collaborating in a peaceful way.
Right. See that's what I'm always on guard for myself. Anything I consider fact, I have to be willing to let go of it.
Okay.
Because if I cling to it, then I'm clinging to the old paradigm.
Wow. Even though it's brand new.
Right. Because how can I, by definition, how can I accept a new paradigm without letting go of the old one? Especially if they're very contradictory.
Wow.
So I have to always be open-minded. I always have to be ready to be, if I'm a flat earther, to accept it's a round world.
Even if when you learned that the earth is flat, even if the evidence was very, very good,
Yeah.
you have to be open to there being something different.
Yeah, I always, it's funny you bring that up. I always tried to imagine if I lived during that era, right on the cusp of it. And I'm grown up in my house where both of my parents taught me the earth is flat. And I go to school and all the teachers say it's flat. And I open the science textbooks and they're flat. And I listen to lectures by the professors at the universities with their high degrees. And the world is flat. How can I keep my mind open to see it otherwise?
Wow.
So I think what Dr. Peterson touched upon, having that reflex of the mind to recognize an anomaly and then be able to properly digest what it is and then grasp it and then react to it.
And what is his full name again?
Jordan Peterson.
Okay, so it sounds like he's helping people to see a way of being that can allow you to adjust to change
Yes.
more efficiently
Yeah.
and with less discomfort, maybe.
Definitely. That's kind of like the foundation of why he's doing what he's doing. Why he took his knowledge to a bigger audience. Even though he was doing a wonderful job at the universities, he just has this worldwide tour. Everyone's taking him with open arms because they want a new way to see the world in their own life.
I see. Now, when you talked earlier, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, just recently earlier. You said did you say that counselors shrink the mind or something?
Typically, it's they call psychologists shrinks because they're shrinking the mind.
And when you say that, what do you see? Like, what does that mean to you? To shrink it? Because to me, like, when I hear you say that, I'm thinking it means things that were so overwhelming to you become not overwhelming anymore. So it's like makes the problems seem smaller, and it leaves a space for greater efficiency of decision-making, choices, and moving through your life. So I don't see it as a bad thing, but when you said it, I wondered if there was a negative connection to it for you, like in the way that you see it.
Well, socially, when people throw the word shrink around instead of clinical psychologist, it is kind of a condescending term, usually, that I interpret. I've never worked or met a psychologist. Thankfully, I never had a reason to sit with one.
Okay.
So I'm not exactly sure, but I guess that's what it could be interpreted as.
I see. So when you say this, when you use these words, it's not from your experience.
Right.
Except that it's from your experience of living and just hearing others say it.
Yeah.
And maybe some of what you read about it and people saying the same thing.
Right.
Okay. So, and we're not saying what kind, because there's many different kinds of counselors, right?
Yeah.
And we're not saying one particular kind or another. It was just a general statement as when someone says a shrink, it's... And so tell me more about that. So does it mean also that, because if we're looking at it as a negative way, I'm trying to imagine what that could look like. Like, what could that look like as it applies to the things that we're discussing today?
Because it to me, it's kind of a prejudged negative connotation, social negative connotation, context of a person. Like if I say jock,
Yeah.
there's a kind of a pretext that goes with it, which is not necessarily true.
Okay.
Like, I guess out of all the psychologists I've listened to, I've only heard Dr. Peterson, but I don't feel shrinked at all. I don't feel, I just feel very liberated.
Okay.
I guess to answer your question, as far as a contrasting way of looking at the word.
But you
shrink.
also haven't experienced feeling smaller from traditional counseling either.
I guess if that's what that means.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to understand what you meant by it.
I would like to understand whoever came up with the word shrink meant by that, but
Yeah, because to me, before I understood more about counseling and what it is, I thought that word meant that maybe thoughts that are important to me might not be, and so that could make me feel smaller. But in my experience, it's been, and there's many different kinds of counseling, and in my experience, it's been expansive. But there's different kinds of counseling, and there's also different counselors. So, but to me, it was like I was originally saying, which is, it's more like, maybe a hesitation where I didn't see one. I didn't see that I was hesitating on something that maybe I want to do or that I'm doing. But for me, my experience was that there was a greater efficiency to it. It was an improved efficiency. But that wasn't the experience with all types of counseling. There's different types and different kinds. And maybe different kinds and different types work for different people, and maybe that's why there's so many different kinds.
Yeah.
But the hardest part for me going to counseling in the beginning was that there was this association of counseling being such a bad thing.
Right.
And I thought, well, if I do this, then I'm doing something bad.
Yeah.
I'm doing something that's not going to be good for me.
Right.
But I could say for myself that finding the right person to work with was a big part of feeling, I would say, the opposite of shrank down,
Okay.
But
Okay.
I would say I've had an expansive experience as well. But life is an expansive experience. Life is an expansive experience. And if I listened to the doctor that you talked about, I would be very open and excited about the possibility of feeling expanded. As your experience was.
Yeah.
Because we can tend to share experiences in similar ways sometimes, right?
Right.
Like if he inspired you and we have good conversations, maybe there's a good chance I'll be inspired too. But I like what you just said when you were just quoting him, just telling what he shared. That already was pretty interesting.
Yeah. You bring up a good point, because as you know, we kind of share a dark kind of childhood growing up, and I needed help, but for some reason when people need physical help concerning their body, it's not seen as an evil thing or a bad thing to go seek medical attention from a doctor.
That's right.
But if it's non-medical, non-physical, and I seek a counselor for something I'm going through, it's just so weird how people, I don't know if it's from society or from self, but just get this connotation, there's something wrong with me for getting counseling. Something wrong of me to seek help in this quiet, personal area of my mind.
Yes, that's right. I just want to say, if the stream ends, it's because the battery died. I don't know how much battery power is left, but if it stops, it's because the battery depleted, and I apologize for that. But we're just going to let it run until it stops, and then get a bigger battery, right?
That's right.
I mean, the universe is the ultimate battery. It's just space, and I mean the space that we exist in, that our bodies occupy, that very space that our bodies take up. is pure energy.
That's right.
And then you add to that the energy of our existence and the energy all around us.
It's awesome.
It's pretty great.
It's awesome.
So apologies for interrupting. Go ahead. I just want to let people know, just in case it turns off.
Sure.
Yeah.
I wish people knew more today. I wish when I was a kid, I was able to recognize I need help other than a physical ailment, physical disease.
I see.
And that it's okay, that there's nothing wrong with me seeking out counseling.
Yeah. And yeah, I get it. I was going to say something. I lost my train of thought. It'll come back. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It makes it, if anything, it makes it more difficult to get that help if you feel like it means something's wrong or something,
Right.
or there's a bad association with it. I wanted to say that I've never met someone in my life that hasn't been through darkness in their life. It turns out that everyone has been through darkness. You know, it's important. It's an important thing to notice. Now, I'm not trying to compare one person's darkness to another, but it just means that that everyone has suffered or is suffering, and I think we try to find ways to be happy together and to share happiness and to share sadness. We're not saying not to be sad, right?
Yeah.
If it's there, it's there, and you talk about it, and you know, if it helps, talk about it or talk to someone about it, and then maybe it won't feel so bad. You know, that can happen.
That's amazing you arrived at that conclusion, because that's exactly what Jordan Peterson talks about.
Oh, really?
He says there's nobody, so suffering is a fact of life, and nobody's immune to that. Pretty much everyone has the capacity to suffer at whatever various degrees, but everyone's suffering. And you know, because people ask him in interviews, well, what is it that you're saying that makes you so viral today? And that was his answer. Everybody's suffering.
So they come to him for answers?
Well, they're just looking for answers, right?
Yeah, okay.
And you know, I think he was wise enough to point out he's not a savior. He's just pointing out the way that they can find their own
peace.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say, and I'm not trying to compete with him, I'm just saying I don't know that I would describe it as everyone has the capacity to suffer, because I don't know if everyone has the capacity to suffer. I mean, some people can't handle it. Some people, you know, suffering's too much for them, right? Maybe we all have different capacities, right? But maybe what he meant was something different. Maybe he means, when he says the capacity to suffer, he just means everyone suffers.
I'm paraphrasing him, so his terminology.
Okay, okay.
But for me, the takeaway is, you know, we were talking about how people are fearful to seek out counseling to improve their life.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, they grew up in darkness. That's their paradigm. That's what they know. And so to risk losing that and to change their whole world and their view of it, they have to take a risk. You know, even though their place is of suffering, humans are creatures of habit. And you know,
right. I think to me, the most important thing about that, and it's really important, is when someone doesn't feel blamed for being where they are.
Right.
Because if they've always been in suffering, and someone says, well, you're choosing to stay there, and they don't realize, you know, how do they relate to that? It can sound like someone's just blaming them, which really what people need is a pathway out of it. So you can kind of say, look, there's this road here, and if you take it, good things may happen. You know, what else can you say? Because you can't walk someone down their path. But I don't think anyone likes to be blamed for their suffering, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
people are different. Maybe some people are like, I'm glad you told me that. I'm going to conquer this. But not everyone's the same, you know?
Yeah.
Not everyone would be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go get it now. I'm going to change everything. I'm going to change my life, you know?
Yeah.
You know, people deal with loss differently. They deal with just everything, all the things that can make a person feel bad emotionally. They respond to it differently. This makes me think of something that I was thinking of earlier about, I lost my train of thought. Okay, what were we talking about? It'll come back. Suffering, everyone's different. Anyway, go ahead. It'll come back.
Yeah, that noise is kind of distracting.
Yeah, I don't know what
from
that
the
is.
street
I'm like, I don't.
Construction.
Oh, they're building something. Okay, they're rebuilding something. Apologies for the sound. Hopefully the phone's not picking it up. Hopefully it's not. Or it's just picking it up and not hearing our voices. I don't know. It depends on how the mic's picking up sound right now.
Because I know a lot of kids, you know, that are abused growing up. Sadly, the parents are blaming them as the source of the problem.
And then so what the kids do is, when they grow up, they continue that belief.
Yeah.
And they blame themselves. So when someone on the outside that's supposed to help them says, well, you're choosing this life, that wouldn't be helpful, I don't think.
Yeah.
It'd be better to just hear, you know. I think the idea is, at least in the counseling that I've had, is they listen to you tell your story, and then you yourself see how you can change your life. Partly because as you talk about the things that you've felt were losses, they don't have such an emotional weight to them anymore, possibly. What do you think about that? Does that sound right?
Yeah.
When you're able to talk about something that you've felt bad about in the past, and the person listening is supportive and caring, then maybe you can feel like, yeah, that wasn't okay, or maybe you feel like you can move on past it then. Not necessarily making yourself do it, but it just happens naturally.
Yeah.
That's why those outside voices of help and support are so important, I think.
Yeah, I find it a tremendous relief of burden when I see that I'm not the blame of everything. I'm not a problem. I'm not the only sole source of the problem, as you know, I was taught by parents or others.
Yeah. That's big.
Yeah.
So suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, everything's okay. Like, I'm all right.
Yeah. For me, it was a really terrible black hole. Really hard to escape that gravitational pull. So, you know, my parents, I mean, I just had it really hard at home. And then...
Emotionally.
Yeah. Physically, verbally abused. I would cry myself to sleep, only to wake up and go to small town USA as a minority, and I'm just getting racism the whole day in school from classmates, teachers.
Wow.
And so I don't feel accepted there either. And they're looking at me as like I'm to blame.
Wow.
For my own problems, which I never had a problem to begin with. And then I go home again, and it was just a vicious cycle for 18 years.
So you didn't have support anymore. What age were you when that was happening with the teachers?
As far back as I can remember, like second grade.
And you're saying the teachers themselves were racist as well?
Oh yeah, all the way through college. I actually threatened the university with a lawsuit, and
Wow.
The professor very, very quickly, openly apologized to me.
That's all you wanted. You still could have pressed a lawsuit, but you didn't.
I could have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry that happened.
Thank you.
And you made it. You got through school. You did well.
Yeah.
You're a great sound engineer and creative thinker.
Thank
creative
you.
problem solver, and
Thank you.
collaborator.
Thank you. Came a
Very
long
good.
way.
Very good work.
Music kept me grounded.
Music kept you grounded.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Tell me about that.
So as a little kid, being the scientifically minded kid I was, I wanted a solution. And the only solution I saw as a kid was running away. That became dangerous during the teenage years once I found out what suicide was. And that looked like a viable answer. But through that time, the only thing that kept my mind off of those paths was this invisible energy of music.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Tell me what you were experiencing music to be at that time.
Um, being, you know, uh, a target of racism at school, anything I said was already discredited before I said anything. In other words, I had no viable, safe outlet of expression. There was no, even though I had the freedom of speech technically, but I couldn't really grasp that without persecution.
In what way, if I may ask, how were you experiencing the racism? How was it coming across?
Because I'm an inferior race, inferior.
But how was that clear to you? Was there something being said specifically, or just the way they were treating you, or
Well,
both?
so I sensed that they looked down on me.
Oh, it's the way they interacted with you.
So anytime I opened my mouth, whatever I said was already at a lower level.
So they didn't respect you.
Right. So they didn't expect my ideas, my thoughts.
They didn't respect your ideas, your thoughts, and you saw them respecting other students.
Right.
Okay.
Even though their ideas might not have been as elegant or clever.
Mm-hmm. So you had good ideas, but they weren't interested.
But it was already a bad idea before I even said it.
Wow.
So I lacked that outlet of expression. But with music, I was able to find a great amount of freedom.
And how did you spend time with music? How was music in your life at that time?
I approached it definitely emotionally, but also scientifically minded. And that's what kind of sparked my interest in the invisible. How sonic energy could have such an effect. And just the science of sound itself.
The science of sound. So at that time, had you begun to read books and study more of the science of music?
Yeah. Whenever I could.
Or you were just fascinated by it? You noticed it as a science?
Which drew me in more to studying it, yes.
Okay.
That's right.
That's really interesting. Let me see if I can just see where the battery is on this, because I'm curious if I can look at the battery. Okay, we have 39% left. That's pretty good, considering we've been going for a good amount of time. So music saved your life.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, is that how you'd say it?
Definitely.
That's amazing.
Definitely.
And do you feel connected to that as you, just from day to day, just every time you think about music or work on music? Like, is it a really good feeling?
It is. I mean, my view of it is different. It's not like some awesome imaginary friend, which I don't mind, but just the whole science of it, and creating sound waves that have order, that have meaning, that have purpose behind it. The sound waves themselves don't know they have a purpose, but they achieve a result.
Yes. Wow.
So obviously, being my own guinea pig, I experimented with sound in the form of music, and I saw its effect on me as a person. And then once I started performing out, I saw its effect on other people. And then I got interested in the effect of sound on objects. rather than just people.
What's an example of sound on an object
Um,
as you've experimented with it?
so, I mean, there's a famous experiment, plate of sand, a plate that's vibrated at a certain frequency with sand on it, and it instantly turns into different shapes.
Yeah.
So then I've been experimenting on different tuning systems. Um, so the standard of tuning right now is 440, but over the years, there's been various tuning standards. The great composers did not tune at 440. Um,
Where did they tune at?
I'm trying to remember.
Okay.
There's a famous composer, he tuned at 441. There was another one at 438.
I see.
And then there was, semi-standard tunings of Baroque tuning. There was the first world standardized tuning by France, the Verdi pitch, which is 435. There was the Renaissance tuning of 430.65. Today, famous symphony orchestras, I don't remember if it was the London Symphony or the New York Philharmonic, they tuned to 441. Was it the Berlin Philharmonic? They tuned to 443. So even just the change of one or two frequencies has a completely different effect on matter.
Wow. Wow.
So I've been experimenting at home. I'm fortunate to have different pianos. So I have a piano tuned in 440, but then I have another piano tuned completely to, for example, 432.
Okay.
And then I have a digital piano. I can just randomly program that to anything.
That's so neat.
I mean, the music kind of sounds the same, but there's definitely something different in the air itself.
Yeah. So, for people that are interested in getting into music, maybe as a sound engineer, or even for music appreciation, for both of those, what would you say would be? How would you say that? What would you say they should do to be better prepared for that education?
First thing that comes to mind, if you just do a quick Google search, piano frequencies. And even though it's two separate words, Google does a good job of just showing you images instantly. It maps out all 88 keys of the piano. And it not only lists the names like F sharp and B flat, but then it also gives a number, the frequency, the actual pitch of each of those 88 keys. If you type in measurement of frequencies, piano, it'll even give you distances in centimeters or inches, whichever you prefer, of each wavelength that each key on the piano produces. And so it's kind of a really good way to see music from a scientific point of view. As sound is measured in three different realms: timbre, decibels, and hertz, which is pitch.
Okay. Oh, hertz is pitch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pitch is the highness or lowness perceived of a sound wave,
Okay.
measured in hertz.
And the hertz is those sine waves, right? That we were talking about earlier?
It measures how many sound waves pass per second, how many cycles.
How many cycles? And are those cycles all in this form of a sine wave? Like an S?
Yes, sine waves, typically so, unless you're doing synthesizers, working with synthesizers, which we know well from 80s music. That's when synthesizers came on the scene.
Okay.
And now they're a big part of EDM music.
Okay.
So synthesizers, that's a whole wormhole by itself. So they can create sine waves, saw waves, triangle waves. You can manipulate any of the waves. You can add harmonics, take away harmonics. All kinds of synthesis of the sound.
And what is harmonics when you say add or take away? What is that they can add or take away? How would you describe that?
So, again, referring back to ancient mathematics and science, Um, One of the great fathers of modern Western music theory was actually, thanks to a man in 500 BC. We know him from geometry class. A squared plus b squared equals c squared.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Pythagorean theorem.
Yeah.
And so we think he's a mathematician. Really, he used mathematics to learn how to tune his instrument. So
Wow.
he was originally a musician and one of the great founders of modern music theory as we know it. And somehow he kind of stumbled upon harmonics. Uh, he probably didn't even know fully what it was at his time. This is long before electricity and measurement, scientific measurement equipment. If you take a sine wave and you measure that distance, let's say it's 12 inches, 1 foot, and then you divide that by half, there's a hidden wave in there. And that wave is called a harmonic, and that's the first harmonic.
Oh, okay.
So that harmonic is 6 inches in length. And you can keep dividing that up. Smaller waves keep appearing. I think to date we found maybe at least 15 different harmonics that exist in one wavelength.
Wow.
So to me, it's an alternate universe. There's an alternate reality of notes that exist in what we call the fundamental notes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
So when I say harmonics and resonating frequencies, does that make you think of anything?
Absolutely.
What do you think of when I say that?
Because anytime someone mentions to me harmonics, so for example, guitarists and violinists are trained to learn how to play a harmonic, even though they don't they're not taught the science of it.
Yes.
My mind instantly goes to calculating the harmonic frequencies in there. So in a musical sense, if someone plays a low C on a piano, then the next harmonic is an octave up, a C, and then above that, G, and then C, E, G, C, D, E, F, G, A sharp, B, and another C. So I guess that's already 14, 15 different harmonics I named. So I'm already kind of spreading out the full frequency spectrum of that note that's hidden.
Wow.
And so when you say the word resonance,
Yeah.
most people think of just the original note.
Okay.
But to me, resonance can occur at that note, the original C, or it could resonate at any of those other harmonics, one of them being B flat, another one is E. So resonance can take place at various different frequencies.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting.
There's a concept in music called, in physics, sorry, in sound engineering called sympathetic resonance.
Okay.
So let's say you had a guitar with an E string,
Yes.
and I have a guitar with an E string. Let's say I'm connected to a speaker, just so it's loud enough.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say you're not playing your guitar, you're not even touching your guitar, and I pluck my E, the E on your guitar will resonate in
That
sympathy.
is amazing.
That's right, that's right.
Wow. I've heard of sympathetic resonance.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that is a popular word.
That's right, that's right.
Sympathetic resonance.
Sympathetic
it relates to the
resonance.
projects. This relates to the projects.
Awesome, awesome.
Wow.
That's exactly what's happening if I find the right frequency and play it loud enough at a crystal glass, it'll shatter, it'll shake, and then eventually shatter because of that sympathetic resonance.
That's what causes it, the sympathetic resonance? Causes it to shatter?
Right.
And so, I don't know if you just said it, but is it a certain note that does that? Or what allows that glass to shatter most efficiently or however you would say it?
So that's what people purport to. And yes, that's kind of the established fact, but I always want to be open to new facts.
Okay.
A new different way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I've been experimenting with. sympathetic resonance at harmonics.
At harmonics?
Right.
And what does that mean to say at harmonics?
So, for example, going back to the guitar example.
I can't believe this. This goes right back to what I'm learning about right now.
Awesome.
It relates directly to the energy experiments. Can't believe it.
There's harmonics in electricity too, but that's a different worm. We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Okay. You know about it though, right? A little bit.
What little I do of anything.
Well, it's a beginning.
That's right. That's right. So, for example, if I play...
every limitation is just the beginning.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Let's say you only have a B string on your guitar, and that's one of the harmonics of E.
Okay.
So I pluck my E again, and all you have is a B string. They actually do resonate. They sympathize with each other.
Wow.
It's not as apparent, not as pronounced, not as strong.
But it still will.
But it's still there because...
Because of the harmonics.
Yes.
And the harmonics is a hidden wave, right?
Right, right. A harmonic, in a mathematical sense, it's wonderful math. So let's say I have a frequency of 1,000. I'm just picking a random number, ignoring the musical note, just looking at physics now. So if the hertz is 1,000 hertz.
1,000 cycles per second.
Right.
Okay.
If you divide that number in half, 500,
Mm-hmm.
500 hertz, that's your first harmonic.
So if you have 2,000 hertz, if you divide it in half, is your first harmonic
1,000. That's
okay.
right. So harmonics easily divide into each other. That's what Pythagoras found out long time ago.
So what can a harmonic do? What does it do? Do we hear it? Do we hear the harmonics? Are they just hidden waves?
They're hidden waves, so scientific equipment can detect them, but our human ears typically don't unless we mute the fundamental or mute harmonic 1, harmonic 2, or the third harmonic, the fourth harmonic. So in other words, a guitarist will touch the 12th fret on his guitar, and he's not pushing down all the way, he's just barely touching the string. The significance of the 12th fret on a guitar, it is the exact midpoint of that string.
Okay.
So if I were to literally pull out a tape measure and measure the distance of the string from what we call the nut to the bridge, so those are the two places supporting the string up.
Okay.
Not including the tuners and the tuning, the amount that's tuned into the tuner, that's wound up. That exact midpoint reveals a harmonic.
Okay.
So anyways, going back to my guitar with the E and yours has a B, there is sympathetic resonance.
Okay.
Vice versa, if I have a B string and you still have your E string, that's the reason I brought it up. B, the reason I'm picking these two notes, B is a harmonic of E. So if I were to play my B, there is some sympathetic resonance with your E.
Okay.
So,
Not because of the harmonic though.
yeah, because of the harmonic.
Because of the harmonic.
Right, because B is different from E.
Okay. Wow.
So there's a whole world of science to explore in just the realm of harmonics itself.
Yeah. So how do you, when you're making music, as a sound engineer, right? When you're making music, how do you, if you do, distinguish between the scientific mathematics and the feeling and emotion and just kind of like creative flow of how something feels when you hear it or imagine creating it to be heard? How would you compare those two if they're separate?
Um, that's a good question. Uh, what's different about how I make music? I'm always looking at the science first.
So you begin with the science.
Right, right.
Okay.
Um,
Is that to say you begin with what can I do with what I know scientifically?
yes, yes.
Okay.
I'm looking at the type of wave I'm going to use: sine waves, triangle waves, saw waves, square waves. I'm looking at the.
Are those all the waves?
Uh, you can make some.
Some new ones?
Right,
Okay.
right.
But there'll be variations of those four probably, right?
Something like that.
Okay.
I feel like I'm missing one or two, but
Okay.
those are the main ones.
All right.
I'm considering my context of tuning. So again, my reference tuning. If it's 440, A equals 440 hertz or not something else. I'm considering the timbre. Um, I'm trying to remember, what was it? Clarinets. They have that distinct sound because certain harmonics are muted and other harmonics are pronounced.
Oh, wow.
I think the odd numbered harmonics are more pronounced in that instrument.
So because of that, it makes a very unique sound? you're
Right,
saying?
right.
Okay.
Because that's the whole science of synthesizers. How can this one piano-looking, piece of plastic, it has a bank of 900 whatever sounds on it, and I push it, and a clarinet sound comes out of it. I push it, a drum sound comes out of it, a saxophone sound, a violin sound, even though they're not perfect,
That's amazing.
but you can tell what it is.
Mhm.
And so it's playing around with the harmonics that actually change the timbre, which is the musical personality.
The timbre is the musical personality?
Right, right, right. So three things, like I said, two of them are measurable by science. So we can measure pitch with hertz.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cycle of sound waves. We can measure volume by decibels. That sound pressure level, how much sound is being pumped through the air.
Wow, and they call it a sound pressure?
SPL, sound pressure level.
Interesting. Sound pressure level.
Because we talked about this, since there's no mass or matter in space.
Yeah.
There's no air to pressure. Therefore, because I remember I sat with a physicist, PhD in physics, and I asked him, I was just a very young, curious mind. What if I had a Marshall, speaker that slash plays on, and the volume's cranked to 10, and I put it right up next, an inch from my ear in outer space? Would I hear it? No, because there needs to be that medium of air, because air has to be pressured.
That's for sound, though.
Right.
But we still can send communication through
right,
space.
right, because that's a different wave.
It's a different wave.
Right.
How amazing is that?
Right. Different thing altogether.
Yep. Okay.
But the third thing of sound we cannot measure is timbre, and that's just personality. I mean, people are working really hard to try and do that.
Is that to say to quantify it? They're trying to quantify it?
Right.
Okay.
Therefore, replicate it. So
A feeling.
Right.
Okay.
Well, they're trying to do it with speech recognition software, things like that.
Okay.
So, in other words, for example, what if you sing a C sharp at the same volume, and you just hold that note,
Mm-hmm.
and I start singing. Let's say your dad starts singing the same exact note in the same room with you, C sharp, same pitch, and singing at the same decibels, same volume.
Mm-hmm.
You still sound different. So that's the timbre.
Okay.
That's how you can instantly, and it's one of the most important parts of sound. As soon as your mom calls you on the phone, she doesn't have to say, "Hey, this is mom." You can already tell it's her. There's a sonic identity. You didn't tell through frequency, and it wasn't by decibels that you recognized her.
It's by timbre.
It's by timbre.
And timbre is
that sonic signature.
wow.
That only the exact makeup of the atoms that make up her body can kind of create.
That's amazing.
There's a very specific resonance to her. So then that got me deeper into specific resonance. and I'm trying to go deeper down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
you know, as a so to kind of come back to your original question, how am I making music and kind of tying all this in together? Um,
Yeah.
I'm and scientists have already been trying to figure this out, but what is the resonance of a human? Because my audience is humans, pretty much with music. Uh, you know, I'm sure I would probably enjoy playing to a bunch of concrete seats, but just something about different about human interaction.
Okay.
So what is the, you know, the way I can get a human to resonate the most?
Mm.
So there was a very interesting thing I studied recently. Um, this is kind of a taboo topic, but it's very fun. Is it possible to play a note that will cause a woman to orgasm? And apparently, one guy claims he could. He had to create. First, he had to explore what the frequency was,
Hmm.
and then he had to create an instrument that could play that frequency. Uh,
Well, I can see why it's taboo.
right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's bring it back to. I mean, I get what you're saying. I believe that sound, from what I'm learning just in my own studies of reading a lot of books, it's sound can do so many things.
Right.
So many things.
Right.
I mean, much more than we would think. You know.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you're saying, right?
That's right.
Okay.
And that's what this guy, just to
Yeah.
wrap it up.
Okay.
He was just simply thinking, you know, he wasn't thinking musically. He was not thinking scientifically with the
Mhm.
result. You know, can I make music or create a sound with an actual effect in the world?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
That's as G-rated as I can put it.
And we know that sound can create so many different effects,
That's right.
emotional and physical, I guess, too.
That's right.
Yeah,
right.
it's amazing. And then we have sound waves that are bigger than the planet, right?
That's right.
Those are sound waves.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell me more about it. I think you went a little bit into it before. I don't know.
Yeah. So what really?
I mean, that makes me wonder if there's sound waves the size of our solar system or the size of our galaxy or larger than our galaxy.
Yes.
It makes sense that there could be.
I,
Maybe, yeah.
I believe it.
Or even linking galaxies together.
Yes.
I read that, for example, the galaxy we are in, the Milky Way galaxy, I read in more than one book that we move through space in clusters of like 4 or 5 galaxies. So we are moving through space in a group of like 4 or 5 galaxies. I mean, how amazing is that? I don't know if this is going to be on Google, but if you check out all the science books from multiple libraries all throughout the area, which is just how I, when I check out books, I get them all. All the books from the library on a subject. And I don't remember how I looked it up. It might have been looking up solar systems, galaxies, stars, just everything about space. And I was trying to find out the temperature, what's the temperature between galaxies? Because temperature in outer space, like, I don't know, 100 miles up or so, right?
Right.
Is like minus 455 degrees Fahrenheit. If you put it in Fahrenheit, it's minus 455. The last time I checked. Is it changing? I don't know. Is it changing? I don't know, but it's cold out there. That's very cold. But I just wanted to know as much as I could about, but about what's going on where we live.
Yeah.
We live not just on a planet, not just in a solar system, not just in a galaxy, not just in a cluster of galaxies, not just in a universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. To get back to what you were asking, so what got me on that track of not just recognizing the largest sound wave that we're usually exposed to, which is the lowest note on the piano.
Okay.
Which is about 57 feet, if I'm not mistaken. and then human hearing goes
Wow.
down to 20 hertz.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm mixing numbers up. Sorry. The lowest note on a piano is 57.5 hertz.
Okay.
And I was it like 30 feet or something?
That could be looked up though. People can look it up. Yeah.
Yeah, that can be referenced.
So double check everything. But go ahead.
Yeah.
This
So,
gets us started.
right.
Yeah.
So most people don't think of sound waves in terms of physical distance anyways. The people who do, they don't, I wasn't thinking that large, not on a global scale. So, true story about how there were astronauts in space and they were getting sick and everyone was panicking. Nobody knew why the astronauts were getting sick.
Schumann resonance.
And yeah, exactly. We talked about that last time.
They didn't have that frequency that our planet has.
Right. So for people who don't know,
but they can build that into the ship or into their suits, something that generates that frequency, right? Now that they know that.
So the medical doctors couldn't come up with a viable explanation or cure to help out the astronauts.
Okay.
So he took a physicist, and his name is Schumann. That's his last name. And he said, oh, no, it's because they're out of tune with the Earth. The Earth resonates at what is now called the Schumann resonance, 7.82 hertz approximately. And it does fluctuate.
It fluctuates, yeah,
right. And, once, like you said, the equipment was installed to have that 7.8 hertz going through the space station, they went back to normal.
I wonder if if that frequency could be varied slowly over time so that they could adjust to being away from Earth or being away from that frequency. I wonder that.
Well, that's a good point too.
Yeah, I wonder, because they might just be used to that frequency.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they can't adjust to, the frequency of wherever they go.
yeah, right.
But also can bring that frequency with them to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Is another option.
Okay. Something you touched on before, I'm reminded of a NASA finding. I have it in my notes. So NASA found out.
Oh yeah, you have notes too.
Right.
How many? 500, I think you said.
300 on this phone.
Okay.
And then more at home.
All right.
So.
Well, if you want to share your notes, I'm happy to read them.
Sure. Well, here's one piece. So, NASA found out. They published that they found a supermassive black hole in the Perseus cluster that's producing a B flat note 57 octaves lower than middle C on a piano. And so that's got to be a gigantic wave.
Wow. Okay, say that again. Say it again. I'm trying to take this in.
Okay, sound waves, a B flat note
coming from a supermassive black hole.
Supermassive black hole in the Perseus cluster.
And where is that? I don't have it memorized. Is that toward the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy? Is that toward that, or is it further out on the edges? Do you know?
That
okay.
I don't know.
I can look it up though. Anybody can look that up. Okay, Perseus cluster.
Yeah,
supermassive black hole.
Supermassive black hole.
And you're saying it's producing our black hole at the center of our galaxy, if I recall correctly, it's producing 1,000 trillion volts. Volts of electricity.
Yeah.
1,000 trillion volts. VOLTS, I think, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And there's a book called Gravity's Engines, right? Which is where I think I got that from. I think that's where I read that.
Cool.
Gravity's Engines. And, so this thing's producing a lot of energy, and the book's called Gravity's Engines. It's like, okay, that sounds to me like gravity is this energy flowing into all of matter, mass, everything flowing into it. So flowing into the planets, and that matches Don Smith. Now I'm hypothesizing and paraphrasing what I'm trying to put all these pieces of the puzzle together in my mind, or these different compartmentalized informations. Don't lose your train of thought, please.
Sure.
But Don Smith, which is what my notes are titled, even though it has notes from everything, but it began with Don. Don That's why they're in that file, because he shared so much, and it helps me to see these other things with greater clarity, if I say it that way. But he was saying that the energy flow into the earth, that gravity is a byproduct of that. In a way, it's a byproduct. Like it's like almost like a friction. Like the energy is pushing us down to the earth, right? And we call it gravity. And then you have this supermassive black hole at the center of the galaxy that is just generating massive amounts of electricity.
Yeah.
And I looked this up, right? Because the universe isn't expanding, it's growing, right?
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
This is what I'm finding when I research this. So I look at our galaxy, naturally our galaxy would be gaining in material as well, right?
Yeah.
If the universe is growing, then it makes sense that our galaxy is growing, right? Not expanding, not just stretching with the same amount of material in it, but growing material.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I look it up, and the last time I checked, even Google had said, right, it's gaining in material.
Wow.
By a little bit, but it's getting bigger. And I'm like, oh my gosh, so neat.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so then the supermassive black hole, instead of being something that eats everything, suddenly it looks like it could have something to do with the generating of material.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just a thought. But and that goes back to the electron and Paramahamsa Tiwari's Paramahamsa Tiwari. And I'm still working on understanding his theories. I'm still working on that. But it sounds like the electron, one way that it's worded is that the electron is I think, and I'm not sure I'm saying this right, but is the only fundamental particle. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I'm still learning how to understand his material. But the electron's spinning. It looks like it's spinning, and it almost looks like the electron is a generator of the way I'm relating to it right now is that, and I hope this is still working because it just warned me that we're on low power mode. So we're down to 20% on the battery, but hopefully it's still working. It looks like we're still connected. It almost looks like the electron in this sense, and we should read the books together sometime.
Sure.
We should peek at them together, and we could even stream that while we're talking about it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But it almost sounds like he's saying that, and this guy was a physicist. He ran the nuclear power plant in India. He really knew he really had some solid theories. He spent his life in this work. And it almost sounded like when I was reading it, and I don't know if this is what he's saying, but it almost sounded like he was saying the electron was the generator of material. But the way that it spins, and this is an electron, right? An electron of atoms, like the smallest thing, right?
Yeah.
And then you have like the biggest thing in the galaxy, or one of the biggest things, aside from the galaxy as an entirety, is this supermassive black hole at the center of the galaxy. What is it doing? It's spinning. We know it's putting out energy, and if our galaxy is growing, could the black hole be generating material, like the electron, if that's what the electron does? It's just, and whether the electron does it or not, it doesn't mean the black hole is or isn't doing that. And I'm not talking about what, most people agree with. I'm just kind of researching as much as I can and trying to see how it looks to me. You know what I mean? And that's how I think that's a big way of how we've moved forward throughout time, scientifically and invention-wise, in working towards solutions, is finding new ways to see what we've always thought we knew.
Yeah. I'm going to throw out a theory.
Sure.
Whether anyone, already claimed this or not, I don't know. But what comes to mind, so in biology, we have cells, and the cells, there's more cells through mitosis.
So they divide and so they double. They double and double and double, yeah.
What if that's what's happening with electrons?
Yeah.
I don't know, it seems far-fetched, but,
Nothing's far-fetched. Sorry. Sorry, Will. Nothing's far-fetched. Not in these conversations.
Yes, that's right.
But go ahead.
You were talking about supermassive black hole and the amount of energy, and how it could be contributing, new mass
Yeah.
that didn't exist. And so I thought about one of my favorite definitions in physics, which is a quasar and even a blazar. So it's the most powerful thing in the universe,
Okay.
and it's generated from a black hole.
Wow.
So the black hole sucks things in, but then out comes these quasars.
Well, they say it sucks things in, but everything's growing. Everything's growing. Think about it.
Right.
Have we ever been to a black hole? Do we know it pulls things in, or are we just saying, well, it's
Right.
making a lot of energy, so it
Right.
must be getting it from somewhere. Let's just throw some material in it. Let's feed it.
Yeah, yeah.
But have we ever seen it? Do we know it's consuming material? I mean, we have a lot of theories about it,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's really it's what you were saying earlier about, and I forgot the way you worded it, but you were saying something about there's a way to see things so that when there's a paradigm shift, it's not painful
Yeah,
because you're
yeah.
like, you embrace it. You're like, okay, I like this.
Yeah, that's right.
I like this.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
more efficient. It how does it work? I don't know how it works yet,
Yeah,
but it works.
yeah.
Not, I don't know how it works yet, so no, it doesn't work, and don't tell me about it again.
Right.
Until I have
right.
to know about it. You know.
What really gets me about so there's a B flat note singing from that supermassive black hole.
That's amazing.
So we're taught nothing can escape that black hole, not even the fastest thing in our universe, light. But here's a B flat coming out of it.
Coming out of it. Love
Yeah.
it. Love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
To me, I don't know. I'm just conjecturing again another theory. I don't know if anyone else it has come up with this, but I'm just thinking out loud. What if that B flat is not even the fundamental note? What if that's just the harmonic?
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's always more to everything, right? There's always more around it. Nothing's alone.
Yeah, yeah,
There's something connected to everything.
yeah. That's right.
And when you showed me that quasar, was it a quasar or
Yeah,
pulsar?
yeah.
Is that what you're talking
That was
about?
a quasar. Yeah.
That was a quasar? When you were showing me that quasar, I was just thinking back to what we were talking about earlier, I think before we were streaming, which is how I was reading in the book, I think it's called The Field, that, and if I understood it correctly, this is what it was saying, that the nucleus of a single atom contained the energy equivalent of all mass, that's all matter, in the universe. And immediately I thought back to something I read previously, earlier in the book, which said that all energy, if I understood correctly, is interconnected simultaneously. I mean, no time. We don't need time travel. It's connected. It's hard to visualize and imagine that, right? It kind of, right? But also not, because it's almost like, I don't know, I thought of what I heard a teacher once say. He said, in this class, there's certain things that are just what we're going to call an is. It's an is. Now, that doesn't mean to put ourselves in a box that we can never get out of. It just means if energy's interconnected all throughout the universe, but we can't imagine how that could be or how that could work, it doesn't mean it's not so. And that's coming from the theories of some pretty great thinkers throughout the world.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, the details of that, I don't recall the exact language used to describe this. So did I misunderstand it? Am I saying it differently than it meant? But it's kind of hard to miss that all energy is interconnected throughout the universe. And I've heard it more than once, not just in this book. I've heard it, more than once. But that, to me, matches the nucleus having the energy. I don't know if you call it the energy. I guess it'd be the energy density, and the energy density and energy equivalent of all the energy that sustains the stability of all matter and throughout space and time. even though all matter is being kept charged by what we call subatomic particles. I think what you were showing me earlier, you showed me a list.
Yeah.
And you're like, Joseph, look at all these, and you were showing me subatomic particles,
Yeah.
which are, I think, inside the nucleus, or definitely inside the atom, right? Definitely inside the electron. I mean, not in the electron, but inside maybe the electron's orbit, we'd say, right?
Yeah.
Within the orbit of it, which is where the atom, that's the atom, right? It's part of the atom.
Yeah. Pions.
Yeah, so we can put this-
muons.
So you were showing me this list. Let's see if we can show it in here.
I think it has to be further back. Oh, there we go.
So you were showing me this list. Let's lean it back. There we go. So you were showing me this list when we were talking about atoms earlier. And I said, okay, so, I mean, just, you know, I haven't studied recently that list.
Right.
But I'm thinking, okay, that sounds like subatomic particles, right? Or,
Yeah.
And so a question might be, are those kept charged by what are called virtual particles, which come in and out, they flash in, you know, they come in, charge everything up, and leave, right? Come in, charge everything up, and leave. And then is that process of renormalization saying that the electron doesn't have infinite mass and infinite energy, because we're going to separate it from the universe within which it exists, so that we can calculate with simplicity and exactness its mass, its energy. Because if it's always being charged, how do we calculate it, right? Then it's the size of the universe. But here's the thing. Don't throw away the energy. We don't want to throw away the energy. We don't want to dismiss the energy that's there. I mean, if you're doing it for the purpose of a calculation, I mean, I don't know, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me to do that, because I want to know, how much energy does something have? How much energy does something have access to? So, you know, to ignore that energy, that something is connected to, that everything is connected to all the energy in the universe, that would be the opposite of what I would want to do. I would want to know more about, okay, these virtual particles, they're coming in and charging up mass, right? They're keeping mass charged. Where are these virtual particles getting their energy? And if they're recharging through the 0-point field or infinite energy from the vacuum, where does the vacuum get its energy from? And where does the 0-point field get its energy from? And then if we look beyond that, because these things, I don't know if they have names yet, wherever 0-point energy gets its energy from, wherever the vacuum gets its energy from, I don't know what those words are yet. But where do those things get their energy from? And if it did end at the 0-point field and the vacuum, which, are those the same thing? I don't know. But if that's where it ends, and let's say they get their energy from our space, and our space gets its energy from that space, how neat is that?
Wow.
I mean, talk about a perpetual motion machine. That's just what we live in. Now, again, language is for the user. That's to say that perpetual motion means that the energy is coming from somewhere. I can't imagine right now ever saying that perpetual motion means that it's not getting its energy from nowhere. It's not getting it from anywhere. I've never heard that said. I only hear that said by people that are opposed to, I guess we call it paradigms of how energy is supposed to work. I mean, the universe doesn't follow our laws.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't follow our laws. Oh, Earthlings, thank you for telling us how to make the universe work. The universe just works. We come up with language and we come up with mathematics and scientific examinations of what we think is happening, and we call them laws. But that doesn't stop the universe from working if we're wrong, or if our law is not all-inclusive. If our law doesn't include all the ways that something works.
Yeah.
Which I haven't seen that yet.
Right.
It's like, oh, you use this law when you're doing this, and you use another law when you're doing that. In other words, if it's, high frequency versus a lower frequency, like 60 hertz versus 20,000 or more cycles per second, there's a difference in the way things work when you change, so, oh, now you use these laws. But then you can't get everybody to agree, though. I mean, do we need everyone to agree to move forward, to move away from pollution, to move transportation away from, polluting the air, polluting the oceans, polluting the water? Do we need everybody to agree on something? Or can we say, this works? Let's use it. Let's use it because it's the right thing to do. It's right for what? It's right for every living being health, every living being's health, and it's right for the health of the planet. What else do you need to know? I mean, if there needs to be a law, it's that anything that can help the planet's health and help human health be implemented.
That's right.
And I mean, when I say implemented, so like in school, we were learning how fast, like when there was war, right? In school, grade school, right? We learned how fast we move into preparation for war when it's time for war, right? This is talking about way back, right? Yeah. Way back when we had terrible wars, right? I know there's still terrible wars always going on, but some of the big wars, everybody geared up, worked, everyone, came together as a community and worked really hard. And to me, I just see that same kind of like collaboration for the solutions that we need every day. It's not a promise of someday, like, oh, someday, gas cars, oh, they're going to be outlawed. You won't be able to sell any new gas cars in 2030, right? This is, I think that's on, last I looked, it's been a while, but that was on Google. Right. Like if you just look it up, no gas cars to be sold. Well, those dates are always pushed back. The dates of a deadline, like this has to be implemented now at this time. That can be pushed back, it can be pushed back again. The kind of things that affect the health of the planet and the health of life, not just human life, all life. Those things require the same attention, because in a way it's like we're declaring war on ourselves and on the planet when we cause harm to it. In a way, it looks that way to me. It looks that way. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, if you look at the chemical list in gasoline, if you look at the list of chemicals in it, the combustion byproducts as well, it's so toxic. It's so bad for everything, So, it's just a thought. It's a thought.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm glad there's people like you around to stand as a lighthouse, to stand as a guard, as a defender for future, for the children of tomorrow learning science.
Well, thank you. I do my best.
Absolutely.
I am just drawn to understanding and practicing solutions. And it's not something I could do by myself. That's why I'm saying I got to hire someone that knows more about electricity than me. Because I have the imagery and the theory, the philosophy of how something works. I can see it. But getting to the specific electronics, I want to bring someone in that's familiar with working with those, so that I don't hurt myself, you know?
Yeah.
And it just seems like a wise thing to do. I mean, sure, I can go to school and learn electronics and learn electrical engineering. I mean, I've read a lot of books on it, but it's not helping me make what I need to make.
Yeah.
It's, reading books is not the same as making something, So I'm looking for someone that likes to make things, has been making things, kind of like the way that you're committed to music, and I'm committed to the things that I do, like studying and then making things. Someone that's done that with, let's say, electrical engineering, and that knows electronics well. So we'll see how it goes. But thank you.
Absolutely.
This thing's still going. It's like, I think we probably have like 10% left.
Nice.
But if you want to, we could wrap the stream up.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'd rather stop it than let it stop when we're right in the middle of saying something. And plus, I think it needs to keep loading after we stop the stream. It'll still, so I want it to have some battery to do that. So, okay, everyone, so thanks for being with us. We wanted to share this conversation because when Will and I talk, and it can be like once a month or once every, whenever we can, we have these long conversations, and every time we've talked, I've said, Will, I really wish we would have streamed this. So even though the conversation is a little different, not much, huh? Not much different than when we haven't streamed.
It was a little awkward for me when you started recording, but yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a new experience.
Right.
Yeah, I was a little nervous too, probably from the excitement of it though. But I'm happy to share this experience with you guys. Thank you all for being here. And we're just sharing our thoughts. And our thoughts are, we really hope to be a part in any way that we can to the solution of, let me see what this is, 10% left. Okay, 10% left. We really work hard to be a part of the solution in any way that we can to cleaner energy, safer energy, less polluting energy, and sharing our journey of educating ourselves and the different ways that we might be able to participate in that process, in the journey of building our own devices, collaborating with others to build experimental technologies, safe technologies that are clean and don't make smog, or make a lot less smog or no smog, right? True zero emissions. The goal is to not harm our planet and to not harm ourselves. Okay, so thank you for being here with us today, and thank you for welcoming Will, sound engineer, and what would you say, Renaissance man?
Okay, I'll take that, sure.
Sound engineer and Renaissance man. Okay, until next time. Bye, everyone.